What's up, everybody? We got some pretty major developments in this week's episode of Alien Earth. Let's dive into episode 4. We found out early in this episode what was going on last week with Kirsch putting that specimen into an organ into a person's lung, and it was Hermit's. He needed a transplant. At the time, I did wonder whether they put it in his new lung, in his body, or in his old one that they have in the lab, but that's answered by the end of this episode. We'll get into that in just a bit here, but it was definitely, in my opinion, Kirsch's way of testing, how these creatures implant themselves and then what they become once they do. He's scheming. But maybe the most fascinating part of the episode is Wendy Marcy speaking the alien language. We still don't know why she can, at least I don't. I'm not buying the whole, oh, she heard it, so now her vocal receptors, they can repeat it. I don't think that's it. I think there's more to it, and so I'm incredibly curious to find out what secret ingredient Boy Genius and his company Prodigy put in her to give her that ability. I'm sticking to that theory too. I still think that's what's going on. I'm not so sure about the specifics here because, like I've said before, I'm not a Alien super fan. I'm much more of a casual enjoyer with this franchise, and I can't go, full Charlie Kelly like I do with Star Wars and Marvel and DC, my core franchises. Anyway, we got more of Kirsch in the lab this week, and I need even more going forward. Timothy Oliphant is playing that edge so perfectly between, helpful hand and mad scientist, and thank God because it's so damn good. Hopefully, I really hope that he goes full mad scientist, full villain by the end of this season. Also, I wanted that sheep to just run through the glass and through Boy Trillionaire's face after the eyeball alien goes crazy on it. It would have been perfect. But in all seriousness, this was another nasty attack scene from those aliens. They've been awesome so far. With that being said, I'm still curious what the grand plan is this season because, and this kind of, goes back to my concern about them having too much for one movie, but not enough for one season of TV. And I could be totally off on this, but it just kind of feels to me like they've done too much too soon in the show. We've already killed a Xeno, and now we've got the first robot human hybrid or whatever malfunctioning, which feels inevitable in a show like this. And sure, we've got the new Xeno in the mix here, and potentially, probably, another one coming next week. But with how the first half of the show went, it feels like, no big deal, they can deal with it, I guess. And this actually could be pretty cool if Marcy is able to form like some sort of legitimate bond with this new Xeno that we see in this episode, and then muddy the waters on taking it out and potentially all xenomorphs taking them out. That could be pretty cool. On the other side of things, Morrow bribing one of the kids into making another Xeno, not knowing that Kirsch has already done it, is so good, and I think Kirsch is actually going to let it happen too, because we of course see that he knows about the conversations between Slightly and Morrow, which that's some nasty work by Kirsch, because he knows of course that he can make Xenos without killing people, but that interaction that he had with Boy Cavalier in last week's episode when they're at the lab is just stuck in my head, and I think he's going full villain. However, the biggest development in this week's episode had to have been the new Xeno that's made just from putting the baby or whatever that little thing was that Kirsch was messing around with in last week's episode in a person's organ in their lung. Now, does that mean that you could do this with any organ from the human body? Can you do it with like the heart compared to the lung? I don't know. I need some of you alien super fans down in the comments below after this episode because to me, this feels like, the end of everything. It feels like Kirsch or Morrow or both of them can just mass produce xenomorphs, but obviously the franchise chugs along, so who knows. Then you also have Slightly making his move to create another xenomorph, and he chooses a Hermit because of Morrow's manipulation. I forget what the specific line of dialogue was, but he says something along the lines of choose somebody you trust, choose a friend or something like that, and maybe that's actually where this whole Marcy, Wendy, and the new Xenomorph connection comes into play in the show. What if her brother becomes a host and then is killed? Then she goes full villain mode with her new Xeno, and that is kind of a Kirsch's excuse to create a ton in response. Now that I could get behind. I know I haven't been totally sold so far on this show through 3 episodes. I've been kind of mixed. mixed positive, but this show's dope, and this was a great episode. Every storyline was clicking, even the ones that I don't mention very much here in the review, and I'm just pumped for the rest of this season. Babu Sise, I probably mispronounced that, butchered that name, I'm sorry, you're incredible. He took another huge step up this week, passing Timothy Oliphant for my favorite part of this show as of right now, but those two are going to be great down the stretch. And so that's going to do it for my review of episode 4 from Alien Earth. I want to know what you guys thought of this episode too, so let me know down in the comments below and make sure you have a great day.